Hi, this is Ken from the CC, here today to show you a program called Adobe Muse. Let's say you are a designer. You're good with graphics, graphical programs, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, etc. And you need to build a website. A lot of times, website development programs are focused on code. Basically, they're tailored towards developers. For example, Adobe Dreamweaver is Adobe's website creation software, but it is mainly for developers. What Adobe did is they created a program called Muse, and instead of it being a web creation program for developers, it's a web creation program for designers. So if you've used other Adobe products before, this will be natural to you. You may need to learn a few new web things, there's a learning curve, but overall, it's pretty self-explanatory for the basics, but there's other good features and other great things you would want to know how to do, and we'll cover a lot of those in this demo. So you don't need to do anything with me. If you want to follow along, that's great with your own assets and everything to build your own website. That's cool too, but if you just want to sit back and relax and let me show you some of the cool things Muse can do, just some of the basics, that would be great too. So first of all, if you want to get Muse, go to Adobe's website, and you'll see Muse as an option. It's part of Creative Cloud. There is a 30-day free trial, and the annual plan for Adobe Muse is $14.99 when you want to get the entire program as part of the subscription. And I believe you get some other apps with that too. And it works on OS X and Windows, so don't worry if you're more of a PC guy, this will still work. I'm showing you this on a Mac, so there might be a few differences, but overall, it's the same program. So let's take a look at Muse. This is the welcome page. You have some tutorials and resources here and your recent list here. I have been doing some extensive testing with this program so far because if you know what the computer clan is, well, we have a lot of websites and we're in the process of totally restructuring them from the inside out. So for example, let's go to one that I already have open here, or one that's already being worked on. If you're not aware, we are doing a film series called Ghost Murderer, and if you like shows like The Mentalist, or if you like cop shows or films that have mystery in them, I recommend you definitely see our new movie when it comes out. So subscribe to this channel or keep in touch with it because it is the biggest film we have ever made, and it's going to be great when it comes out. I'd really like you to see it, and I hope you enjoy it. And you may know this already, we already have a website. So for example, let's just go to ghostmurderer.com, and if you go here, you see some basic HTML5 animations, and this is what it looks like right now. These HTML5 animations were created in Adobe Edge, which is basically for HTML5 animation only. We'll get into some of that maybe later, but we're going to focus on Muse for right now. But I wanted to show you this because this is what the website looks like currently. And this was created, like I said, just with Edge. But now we're doing something a lot more elaborate with Muse. When you're building a website, this is kind of what it's going to look like. It's going to have this tree structure. There's three things here. There's your masters, there's your pages, and then there's what they're called children. You know, these are your pages, and then a sibling page would be something next to it on this level of the hierarchy, but beneath that, these are child pages. So this is basically the structure of your website. And the masters, what the masters are the general design of the web page. So for example, if I change something on the master, which all of these pages are using, that property will be changed to everything immediately. For example, if I double clicked and opened up the master here, and let's say I wanted to go to my background properties, so I'll go to fill, I have this image in there right now. Maybe I want to get rid of the fill, and maybe I just want to do a solid color, so I'll choose black. And if we go back to our hierarchy, you will see that all the pages that are using that master now went to black. And we can undo that and go back to our image. And then if we go back to our master, you will see that everything is updated to that image again. So that is the first basic thing I wanted to show you, because knowing what masters are is pretty important. So now that we have that basic understanding, let's actually go ahead and create a web page. To reiterate, I only showed you this one because this one's a work in progress and it actually gave me something to show you guys. We're going to actually build a mini web page here now. So let's discard those changes. So let's create a new site. We just click this button here, and we're greeted with this. We can set our width and height, our margins, our padding, And that's all this is basically the space around the page. You'll see some extra space on the page when you set those. But just for this demonstration, you could leave these at their defaults. Yeah, actually, let's just do that. Let's keep those at their defaults just to keep it simple. But let's make the page a bit wider, maybe 1,000 pixels wide. And the minimum height is, we'll say 700. Now, it says minimum height because if you add more into the page will dynamically expand to accommodate all the stuff you're putting on your page. But if you remove all the media, it'll go down to 700. It will never go below that unless you force it to go below that. A cool thing is you can also have formats for your mobile phone or tablet. So if you're creating a mobile site, that is fully supported. Okay, so we're going to click OK. And we're back to that planning phase again, like I showed you at the Ghost Murderer site. So an important thing to keep in mind is, what are the parts of your site that are going to be universal? What are the parts of the site that you're going to see on every page, if not almost every page? That's what you use the master for. Click on the letters there and just give it a name. This will be called our main design. That'll just let me know that's going to be our main design. So we can double click that and open it up in the design editor, and you can always switch back between your previews, design, and plan all up here in the toolbar. So here we are in the design phase, and right here it says main design. That is the master we just made, so that is what we're editing right here. So let's do a couple of basic things first. Our browser fill is the color you see outside of the web page. That's this gray here. So let's say everything outside of the web page I want to appear black. So now that we have the black set, let's set a different color for the background here. So once again, we can go up to our toolbar, or you can do all of this in the inspector here. You can get to that from the window menu. If you don't have that, you can choose which panels you want seen. So let's go change that fill color. So let's set that to maybe a gray. We'll do a gray. You can also use the color dropper to sample a color. And you could use this button to make new swatches. And of course, you can come in here and mix any color that you want. So we'll go back to that gray. We'll just do kind of a neutral design. And well, this is one thing you'll see across the interface. If you have a parameter like a color swatch here, if you click the arrow, you get the color swatch. But if you click the little link next to it, you get some more advanced options. You can change the fill to a gradient, maybe an image. This toolbar is basically just a shortcut to get to the more advanced options inside of your panel over here. They're really the same. It just depends on what kind of workflow you like best. So right there, what we did so far was we created a master. We set the dimensions. We set the black browser fill background color, and we set the background color for the page itself. You'll see our homepage now got adapted to that main design master we just made. And to reiterate, everything we change here will update on here. So just to show you one more time, if I change the background color to white, boom, it's going to change it to white on all the pages that use this master. If I change it back to that gray, same thing. It'll go back to the gray. So now let's have some fun. Let's put some graphics and other assets in here. And if you're a Photoshop user or any other image editor user, you've probably built your own logos and things before. So that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you specifically with Photoshop files because there's a really cool thing you can do with PSDs in here. So since we're still in the master, we're going to set our header size. So I'm just going to drag this down. This is how big our header is going to be. I'm just going to make it bigger for now. In the file menu, we have a few cool options here. We're going to do place, or Command D is the shortcut. And we go to the desktop where I have my Audio Byte assets. I'm just going to make a little fictional website called Audio Byte. And I built a little header here in Photoshop, right? Audio Byte, the place for audio files. So I'm going to place it just like I would place a file in a Photoshop document. And the cool thing with PSDs is, there's a lot of cool things about PSDs, but here's one of them. Since this is a Photoshop document, I can choose a specific layer I want to import, or I can import the composite image. I don't need to export the Photoshop files to JPEGs or anything, because when Muse publishes to your server, it will automatically convert the Photoshop files to JPEGs so they're readable in a browser. So we'll hit OK, and then it lets us place it wherever we want. We're going to click right here. We're going to position it. As you can see, there are alignment guides that will help snap it into place. Okay, so I've got that there, and I'm going to move the header to just the end of that image. Great. So now we have our header in there. And like you might expect, that header now shows up on all of our other pages. So for example, if I was going to edit the home page and add my own content here, and I tried moving the header, I can't move it. That's because it's set in the master. Since it's in the master, we can't accidentally bump anything here. You've probably noticed that if you use PowerPoint or other Office apps like that, you work with masters and slides. That's basically what this is. That's all the master really is. It's all the stuff that's non-editable on a normal page, but once again, editable in the master. It just keeps things organized, and it helps you update multiple pages really quickly. Let's maybe say, oh, you know what? I don't like the way this looks. I'm not a fan of it. Well, here's a cool thing. Right-click, edit original. It'll open up the Photoshop file for you. So let's say I want to change this little chevron thing going on here. So I'm going to open up its layer styles. Maybe I want to change the color. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. Let's maybe turn off the overlay. Yeah, maybe we'll change it to that. Okay, I like that better. The colors look cooler. So we're going to save that in Photoshop. And when we go back to Muse, boom, automatically updates. It's all good to go. And one thing I'd like to point out for you in the panel over here, if you look at your Assets tab, this will tell you all of the files or assets that are inside of your Muse project. You could right-click on them, relink them to another file, go to the asset in the project, reveal in the Finder, like we have it in this folder here. And I will say, if you move the image, let's say like right now I have it on the desktop in this folder here, if I moved it, Muse will warn me saying the asset cannot be found. It'll still show up in here because from what I've tested, Muse keeps track of the files and it keeps it loaded in your project, but it'll still warn you saying, hey, you moved the file, what do you want to do? But like I said, if you right-click and relink, you can always just click it again and put it in there, and it will work all the same. So I'm actually going to do a file save. I'm just going to call this audio, oops, it would help if I spell things correctly, audiobyte.muse. You don't have to put the .muse in there by yourself. It was already in there. I just accidentally deleted it. But yeah, so now I have that saved. So if we go to the desktop in my folder here, you'll see I have created a Muse file, and that's how I can get back to it later. I can just double click it, open it up. All right, so now we have our header. It's looking good. Let's say I want to do a little bit of effect work to that. So I'm going to expand the header again just to make some more room for this. And I'm going to just drag this down a bit. Up here you have an awesome little effects button. Click it. And you have things like shadows, bevels, glows, and the scroll effects, which we'll get to later. So let's say I want a shadow. We'll just do a simple shadow like that. And there you go. Now you got a shadow. And down here is our footer area. So maybe I want to make text. So I'll click our text tool, and similar key shortcuts to Photoshop. T for text, V for arrow tool. It's all right there for you. So I'm going to press T for text, drag a text box, and type what I want. So I'll say copyright 2013 audio byte. So then we'll go over to our text tab in the panel here, and we'll just say center that. And I'm going to go to the arrow tool just so I can drag this around. There's the center, and I can click on it, maybe use my arrow keys to move it around a bit. And that's looking pretty good. That looks like it's nice and in the center there. So now we built a footer and a header. So now this copyright will show up on all of the pages. Same with the header. There is a spell checker built in. Obviously this is not a word, so I'm just going to add that to the dictionary so it stops underlining it. And maybe I want to change the color a bit. So let's do maybe maybe like a light gray there. So let's see what it looks like. There we go. That looks good. So basically, we just built the template, if you will, to build on top of for our other web pages. So that's the master. Now let's experiment with a web page. By default, we have a home page. By clicking the plus buttons, we can add pages. We can add children pages, so we can have a hierarchy going on here. Or we can add other top-level pages. If you right-click on these pages, you can also change what master they use. So if we had multiple masters, we could choose which one we want. Or we could even say no master, and then it would just be a blank page. But since we already built that master, let's just use that. So we'll double-click on that. It opens it up here. And now, as you can see, we have our footer and header, and we can't touch them because they're in the master. But we can fill the body here, and everything will be great. So let's say I have some images here, maybe just some things I want to throw in here. I got some Harman Kardon stuff, so I'm just going to drag some images in. It lets me place them where I want. Maybe size them down a bit. Yeah, these are pretty high-res images, as you can see. So we'll experiment with this one. So I'll center it there. And what I'm doing here is I'm holding down the Command key, and it lets me crop. And I believe it's the Control key on Windows. So I can actually crop and change the aspect ratio of this image here. So now I can maybe make it a little bit bigger. And I kind of turned it into more of just a rectangle here, just so it seems to fit better. So yeah, this is Audio Byte. This is a website about all things audio. So we got some Harman Kardon sound sticks here, right? So maybe that's an image we want to feature, you know, maybe that's something we want our viewers to see. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here just so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so now we have one image in there. That's pretty nice. We could put more in there. We could do our effects like we did before. We could change our opacity as well. And let's say you wanted to actually change that image. Like I said earlier, we could do Edit Original, and it would open up in our photo editor. And we can make changes. So let's do that. Preview is my default editor. And I could do like I just did in Photoshop. You know, maybe I just want to adjust some colors. Maybe I want this to be black and white. So I'll reduce all the saturation. Save it. And come back. And there it is. Now it's a black and white photo. All right, so I'm going to add in some more photos here. Let's do... maybe we'll just do one more with the soundboard here. The soundboard that's part of a TriCaster. We'll just drop this in here. We can even drag it as we drop it in, so that's pretty nice. So we'll just do that. Maybe drag it down a bit. As you can see, the page automatically gets longer because once the image intercepts with the footer, it will automatically resize to accommodate more space. So that's really nice. Once again, just dragging to resize, snapping with the alignment guides, holding down the Command key to do some cropping. Maybe drag it up a bit. I can double click it and reposition the image inside of the mask, and then just position it how I like. All right, so now we got some images here. Pretty good. So maybe you want to know how some of the parallax effects work. You've probably seen this on many web pages, and a lot of people are going gaga over parallax effects, and I can't blame them. They're pretty cool. So let's take a look at some of that. So I have part of my page built here. I'm just going to do a save just to make sure I don't lose anything. If I go to my Fill tab, I'm affecting my page background. So let's say I want to put an image behind here. Let's say, let me go to my image browser. I'm going to go to CG textures here. I have a blurred out copper pattern tile that you saw from the Ghost Murderer site. So I'm putting that in as my background, and as you can see, just put it in the corner. It looks kind of ridiculous. So what we can do is under fitting, we can just go to tile, and we can even change the position too. So now we have that in the background. So we have a little more color going on there. Now, for scrolling, let me demonstrate how this is right now. So inside of Muse, there's a few ways to preview things. You can click the Preview tab, and it will show you the website inside of Muse and how it functions. So as you can see, I can scroll, look at the images, everything's great. But you can also go to File, and you can actually preview your site in your default browser. So that option is there for you. All right, so as you saw, when I scrolled, the image scrolled in the background with our pictures. Let's say you don't want that. Maybe you want the image fixed and you want everything to scroll on top of it. Like I said, you've probably seen this on many other websites before, especially on Tumblr blogs. The built-in feature is called scroll motion. This is how we can change our parallax effects, scrolling, you know, all that great stuff. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to set the speed to 0. So basically that means the background image is not going to move at all when they were scrolling. So I'm going to save, go to preview, and now when I scroll, the images scroll on top of the background, and the background does not move at all. It creates kind of more of a depth effect. It looks really nice. I do like parallax effects when they're not overused. So that's a little demonstration on how the parallax effects works inside of Muse. Also, I thought it would be nice to note that you actually do have layers, kind of like you would in Photoshop. So if you need to rearrange things, find out where they are, it's pretty easy to figure it out just with these little layers here. Okay, so now we made a home page. Now, what's one thing that other sites usually have? A nav bar, right? Also, I want to note one thing. when we were fiddling around with the scrolling effect, I did that on the home page just for a demo. But remember, if you want that to show on all the pages, you need to do that in the master. See, we didn't do it in the master, so it only applies on the home page. I did that to drive a point home. In reality, you'd probably want to do it on the master, though. So now, like I said, nav bars are pretty important. You need navigation to get around your site. So let's expand the header in our master a bit more. And what we can do is go to the widgets library. Muse actually has quite a few really nice widgets built in here, so let's take a look. I'm going to collapse these other things. You can do slideshows for pictures, panels, menus, forms. It's a pretty nice collection there, and they're very customizable. So for a menu, we're just going to drag in a horizontal menu. And we're just going to position that in the center here, like right there, and move the header up and close it off there. So by default, the menu is automatically displaying all of our top level pages. That's all the pages that appear on this level of the hierarchy. So I'm going to add some more just to drive a point home. I'm going to call this one media. We're not actually going to do anything with these pages. We're just doing this for a demo. Books, maybe websites. And as you can see in the previews, the menu is dynamically expanding to accommodate these new web pages. And you can even do submenus. You know, when you hover over the block and it expands down to give you other options, that's possible too. And when you're editing these, so let's close out of this and go back to our master. Get this little triangle here. When you click that, this heads-up display lets you do all the customizing. You can even go in, change the colors. Let's say I want to do a color match. We'll match this part of the header. And maybe we'll click on our text here. Maybe we want to change the font, you know. So we'll click this whole thing, go to our text tab. Maybe I want to use a web-safe font. Arial's a pretty good web-safe font. Just a quick little tidbit about fonts. If you use a font that is not web-safe, it'll automatically render it as an image for you. As you can see, it even tells you right there, export as image, so that will work. Typically, I try to avoid that, though, because using an actual font scales better because it's a vector. But you can actually do web fonts where you can actually use a custom font, and when the viewer visits your website with that custom font, let's say they don't have that font on their computer, the website will still display correctly because it's embedded in a way. So that's a basic navigation menu there. Let's take a look at some states. Now, states, not like the United States, but like states on a menu. I'll demonstrate what those are. So if we go to our tab here for states and we click on our menus, you see this all the time when you're on web pages. Like when you roll over the button, it's a different color. When you click the button, it's a different color. And we can change those colors just by coming into here. So our normal state is going to be that blue, and these grays work out pretty well. These are the defaults. We just changed this one so far, but you can change them. So if we go to preview this page, as you will see, when we hover over, the colors do change. When we click, the colors change as well, and it all just works. And there's even an active button to show you, hey, this is the page you're on, this is the current page, so it changes the color there too. That is also an option. So that's a quick look at navigation menus. Just for fun, I'm going to go back to that master. I'm going to put that image in the background and set it the same way so it appears like this on every page, and set the scroll motion to 0. So now we did these customizations on the home page, so they showed up just on the home page, but now I did them in the master, so boom, 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 boom. It's now all over in the master. Now our pages all have that scroll effect, they all have that background pattern, they all have a nav bar, a header, and a footer. What's one other thing you see on websites often? Social buttons. So let's show social buttons. Now you could create a link, you know, a hyperlink, and actually if you go to File and go to Site Properties, when you're creating hyperlinks, you can actually define your default colors in here and your underlines and italics and bold and whatnot, so those apply across the entire website. And that's one way to do a link to like a social page, but a lot of times people use buttons. So another feature is how Photoshop buttons work. So we'll do Command B, place Photoshop button. I'll show you how this works here. So we'll go back to our assets, and here is my Twitter button. I'll hit open, and here's where the magic happens. Remember the states we were talking about earlier? States also work with Photoshop layers. So the normal state, I have this color. For the rollover state, I have hover, that color. And for the Mouse down state, I have, where is it? This color, okay. And active state, I just give it the same color as the link there. So now we're going to put that in there. We're going to hit OK and plop it in. Probably shrink it down. Oop, let's do it proportionally by holding down Shift. And let's just, maybe we'll make it a bit smaller. And just line it up kind of with our nav bar here. So now we have a Twitter button in there. Now if we go to preview this, check this out. There's our color change. When we click it, when we hover over it, it's all different. So that's another interesting feature about Muse. You can use Photoshop layers for different states of your buttons. I showed you all the graphical ends of links, but how do you actually make a hyperlink? It's simple. You click your image or highlight your text you want to hyperlink, and you go up to this. Now, by default, it'll let you choose one of your pages of your website or even a file from your computer. Or you can type in a URL, http://twitter.com, and then I would put in the username, but this is a fakey thing, so I don't even know if it exists, but that's how you do a hyperlink. And when you click this, you can even have it display a tooltip when you hover over it, like that yellow thing that just popped up right there, that's a tooltip. And it even gives you a quick button to edit your link styles. But this only applies to text, but those are still there. So there we go. We did masters, backgrounds, images, nav bars, headers, footers, social buttons, parallax scrolling. So what else is there to know? Well, there's a lot to know, but just a few things I want to show you. I showed you the site properties. This lets you change like the dimensions and your hyperlink colors for the entire site. But let's say you need to change something just for one page. If you right click on the page and go to page properties, you can change the individual settings for each page. So dimensions, our layout, options. So for example, the page name, it's named home, but maybe in the browser we want it to say something else. So maybe we could have it say welcome to Audio Byte. And the file name will be indexed because that's how home pages work on servers. So we can change all that here. Metadata, we can add our descriptions, our keywords, and even code for the head tags of HTML. So this helps with search engine optimization. If you go to a Google search and you type in something, you see your results and they all have little descriptions. That's what shows up here. So I could say Audio Byte is a website that is for audio files. If you are addicted to music, I could say addicted to audio hardware, this is the place to be. And keywords, things that are related to the site, audio, speaker, music, things like that. And that helps discoverability with the website. It automatically puts it into the metadata tags of HTML. So we can hit OK. And now it still says home because we kept the page file name home just for the sake of editing in Muse. So in Muse it says home, but let's go to this in a browser. So I'll preview page in browser. And there you go. It says welcome to Audio Byte because that's what we changed the actual name to. And if we Googled for this page, if it really existed, it would show the description and such. So I'll just assure you that it's there. So we'll go to Show Page Source. Right here, we have our keywords and our description. So it's all programmed in there for you automatically. And as you can see, the parallax scrolling still works. Our nav bar still works. And our Twitter button works too. Okay, so we went over a lot of things here. Holy cow. The last thing I'd like to show you is just how easy it is to publish. Go to File. You can export this as HTML, or you can actually upload to an FTP host. Now, I'm not going to actually type in my real credentials here, but let's say you do have a hosting plan with GoDaddy or some other web server host. So what you would do is your domain name, so let's see, it would be like audiobytes.com. That's probably a real site, don't sue me. And then your FTP address would be ftp.audiobytes.com, and we would put this in the root, and then you do your login name, Ben Dover, and then your password. And then you can even have Muse remember your credentials. It can encrypt them. And you can choose to publish all files or modified files. So if you only change one page and you have everything already stored on the server, do this. Now, if you want to replace everything on the server with a new copy of all of your pages you're working on, then that's when you're going to do all files. And then you hit OK, and it publishes to your server. But of course, this one's not going to work because those aren't real credentials. But if you put your real credentials in there, trust me, it'll work. I've done it. That's a quick look at Adobe Muse, a powerful, what you see is what you get editor to build websites that is tailored for designers. And there's just so much more we can do with this. I mean, just looking at the objects menu, I mean, like I said, we have compositions, forms, menus, panels, slideshows for pictures, HTML, so you can put HTML embeds in there. There's so much more to this program, and I've just been using it for a few days myself, and I love it. I hope you enjoyed this demo. A lot of people seem to really enjoy our demo, so that is why I wanted to put this out there, because I want people to know not only how many cool websites are out there, but I want you to know that you can make a cool website too with this program. If you have any other questions, let us know in the comments below. We'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. Let us know what you think about the program, and let us know what you think about the demo here, if we did a good job or not, because we want a good reputation. So, thank you for watching this, and we will see you later. Videos are just the beginning. Check out these other great websites for great content from the Computer Clan, and subscribe for more great videos from Real Deal Productions.